Boy, oh boy, did I have a shock at the start of AEW Forbidden Door. Also, hello my friends, and welcome to the show where we are going to take the finger of power and give the good bits an up and the bad bits a down. But yeah, when Hechicero came out for the first match, maybe he's always had this music and I hadn't noticed, but it also must be license-free or royalty-free music, or music you just get on the internet. Because I did like an action reel last year, because sometimes I like to be an actor, because I am a massive asshole, and I use this music. So I was like, wait a minute, is somebody playing my action reel? And of course they weren't, because that would have been ridiculous. Then I was a sad panda. So, we start off quite low here. Let's up those downs. Otherwise, though, it was Hechicero taking on MJF as our opener, and I will never get mad at this, because compared to everything else on the show, well, it was just a bit of light-hearted fun. Because it was just a case of Maxwell being the good guy hometown hero, and Hechicero was like, ha ha, therefore I get to be the fun villain. So that's what we did. Sometimes it is 2 + 2 = 4. Hechicero did have a reason to be pissed off, though, because early on, MJF pretended he was going to shake his hand, then he poked him right in the eye instead. And that'd be like me coming up to you and saying, how are you, Steve? And just as Steve goes to answer, I go, ha ha, go flub yourself. But like, that felt totally unnecessary. Friedman also used Barry Barricade, because Barry always gets it on pay-per-views, but then he did that thing that all 2024 wrestlers do. He posed for too long. That's when the masked man was like, ha ha, I've got a plan. And he tried to break MJF's arms. And I was like, well, that will work. If you do break someone's arms, what are they going to do? Probably just wiggle around on the floor. After he had smashed Maxwell with a knee as well, he started doing the Fargo strut, which is what MJF had done earlier. And I had mixed feelings about this, because one, I was like, well, turnaround is fair play. But two, I was like, for goodness sake, sports entertainees, can you please remember that when you do hit your D-pad, you are leaving yourself exposed. Max did sell this really well, though, because he had to hit a one-arm pile driver, where they were both going after each other's arms, which I guess does make sense. They really like arm bars. Sadly, you can't get a drink from one of those, though, so instead they ran into each other with a big clothesline. When MJF just stood up, he hit the Long Island Sunrays, and then hit Hechicero with the Brainbuster, and he got the 1, 2, 3. So there ain't no two ways about it. That must be his new finishing move. We just went 2 for 2. So yes, as already hinted, this is the kind of match I do like on a pay-per-view that you know is going to be long, because it's just a little bit different. I suppose my only criticism would be, rather than the opener, if you had stuck it right in the middle, it would have felt like a nice breath of fresh air. But once again, you can figure this out. We were in Maxwell's hometown, so why not give him a big pop? But it was a nice way to king things off. Well, I suppose you could say we teased that maybe at some point in the future the Acclaimed are going to be the AEW Tag Team Champions. I mean, this is going off old wrestling tropes, but in terms of this night, they lost, which means soon they may win. Otherwise, though, it was Max Caster, Anthony Bowens, and flipping Tanahashi taking on the Elite. And of course, the big sell point here is that Tanahashi and Okada were going to go at it again. And I love the fact that all the fans in the building knew that, so when they stared off at each other, everyone just went crazy. Sometimes it's the simple stuff. We also do have a problem, though, because that's right. Bring down the bitch counter. I knew this was going to be a mistake and a problem. But during his opening rap, and I had to go back and count this, Max Caster dropped the word bitch 7 times. That's right, 7. That means we're now up to 12. And this thing has only been going 12 weeks. I'm a little worried by 2025 we could get to 3 figures. Blessed is Okada too, because after him and the Ace had stared off against each other to get everybody pumped up, he just went, nah. And he left and he tagged out. I keep saying this. Some people don't like brand new Okada. Say it on the quiet. I actually think it may be my favorite version yet. Nicholas Jackson instead got in there, but he got cross-bodied by Tanahashi, who then started playing his air guitar, and he is the exception to the rule. He can pose for the next 77 years, and I'll be totally good with it. Anthony Bowens then got in there as well when he told Max Caster to join in, and they did hit Scissor Me Timbers, when, of course, they all went up to Tanahashi, and everybody did one big scissoring. And if you are a young child, please listen to me. Do not say that to your parents. Bless his Okada, though, because he used this to blind tag in there, where he whipped everybody's ass. When Nicholas Jackson put on the Acclaim's headphones and everybody was dancing around, and just when you thought the shenanigans were done, Nicholas applied a camel clutch when Matt Jackson got in there and he just ran the ropes, and instead of doing a move, he kissed his brother. Now, once again, some people get so annoyed when any kind of wrestler has fun. I was laughing in my chair. Give it to me. Somewhere in all of this, though, Max Caster did take a med pack, so he was able to get the hot tag to Anthony Bowens. And this guy was so warmed up, he hit a famouser. And obviously, he learned that from his daddy ass. The Young Bucks then got back in there, and we did the whole you hit me, I hit you, we all hit each other, because of course they all had to go down, so Tanahashi and Okada could get into it. And yes, it's not as good as it once was, because Father Time kicks all of our butts, but I still thought it was great, because sometimes things just have gravitas. It didn't last long because eventually Nicholas and Max were back in there when Anthony Bowen stopped a Rainmaker because he understands how devastating that move can be. That also led to the arrival and the mic drop, and just as Tanahashi was about to hit the high-five flow, which I presume would have won the thing, the Young Bucks stopped him because they're a couple of dicks. They instantly pumped up their shoes too before they had a super kick party and did some dives when Okada was going to hit the Rainmaker, but instead he flipped off the crowd. And Hechicero had done that in the first match, so I'm guessing they must have had a conversation. He then finally went for the Maker of Rain, but Tanahashi did turn that into the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. And I tell you, once again, given who it was, that got a good old 1-2-ooh. He then went to use those dragon screws, which he totally loves, but sadly he was focusing on the Bucks at this point when he turned around and Okada was like, hello, old friend. He smashed him with the Rainmaker, uno, dos, tres. Okada was definitely going to continue this beating too until Billy Gunn did make the save. So once again, this is just Forbidden Door fun, or the FDF. You take some people from New Japan and you throw them into the AEW mix. And in terms of my entertainment values, let's get it up. Which is when things totally switched, because we did a 180, because it was Bryan Danielson taking on Shingo Takagi in the Owen Hart Cup. And like many people on this show, backstage they must have gone, hey man, shall we just kill each other? The other guy said, that sounds great. And after doing some serious wrestling, they just threw that out the window and started smashing each other in the head, when eventually they got outside and Shingo did this suplex onto Bryan Danielson, who landed right on his brain. And of course, that ties into problems with Bryan in the past. I was freaking out and shouting at the TV, would somebody please protect this man? It almost led to the 10 count, but as soon as Danielson got back in there, Takagi started to beat on him. And then you know what he did? He posed, why does nobody listen to me? This meant that Bryan then flew in with more strikes when he hit this ridiculously high-angled suplex, but Takagi was having none of that, so he came back with a pumping bomber, which, by the way, is the best name for anything ever. He then got the Made in Japan for his own awesome 1-2-ooh, because I presume you were like me and just assumed, well, Bryan Danielson is definitely going to win here. While that didn't change massively in my tum-tum, it did make my brain go, well, maybe, just maybe, but no. Takagi was then going to hit the last of the dragon, but Bryan did that awesome spot where he just collapses. So it was telling you he has had his butt whipped to such a degree, his legs have no more power, which means his HP was basically zero. The thing is, though, when Shingo went for this again, Bryan must have gone, oh, and taken a med pack, because he turned that into the Regal Plex when he hit the Psycho knee. That was another 1-2-ooh. That's when I searched my feelings like a Jedi and realized, yep, I'm totally into it. It really annoyed Bryan, who told us he was going to kick his flubbing head in, and he did too. But man, this must have taught Takagi a lesson about not dying, because he kept rising from the ashes like a zombie. Danielson also then decided to screw this, and he locked in the most brutal arm submission you'd ever seen. I honestly thought this limb was going to come away from Shingo's torso, and quite correctly, his brain would have gone, listen bro, I don't care what's happening or if you have any pride, just tapped out. And he did. All of this now does feel to be tying into the fact that Danielson has this new mean streak, because in the first half of 2024, he just loses and loses and loses, and now he wants to win the Owen Hart Cup, and he wants to go to Wembley, where he shall challenge for the World Championship in what is his last full-time year. If that is the narrative, my word, plug it into my veins. They're doing a really good job. This was so good. Up. When we got some story. I'm sorry, internet. I know you like to say AEW doesn't have any stories. Well, that's fine. You keep telling yourself that. But I sat here and I was like, nope, this is definitely a story. Because it was Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa for the AEW Women's Championship. And of course, Mariah May was in both of their corners. And she was trying to give them gifts beforehand and she was freaking out. Because like her two best friends fighting, nobody can deal with that. Now Storm did have a smart plan here because she went for the hip attack. But when it didn't work, Mina kind of grabbed Toni's legs and just smashed them into the mat over and over again. And then she was using Rita the ring post and doing figure four around that thing too. And I'm like, huh. That may be some of the smartest offense I've ever seen. Strong then continued to spam these hip attacks. I mean, they do work before. When she went to do some into Simba the Steel Steps, and Mina got out the way, so Toni just flew into these. And I was like, what is the deal with these matches? Every single person is trying to hurt themselves. Now, understandably, that scared Luther too, who came around to help his boss, which is when Shirakawa went to the top rope and she dived onto both. And then just went, yeah. I love wrestling. This then, of course, led to a big old strike battle when Mina started busting out the DDTs, but she was only able to get a 1-2-ooh when you could see it in her face. She was getting a little bit pissed off. We then continue with the back and forth when Mina did get hit with a proper sweet chick music, and look, she did kick out the 1-2-ooh. And once again, in no world did I think Toni Storm was going to lose here, because we are going to do the big match at Wembley, but there was just a teeny tiny part I bit on it. Still returned the favour though, because Shirakawa hit the glamour driver and Toni Storm kicked out of that as well. So this was basically WrestleMania. You can hit me with whatever you want, this shoulder ain't staying down. Toni just got up and went headbutt her, which did work, because she then hit the snap suplex and slammed her with the Storm Zero and got the 1, 2, 3. Now I've actually made that sound like it wasn't climactic at all. It was actually a very good finish. And this is mostly because we did have a big post-match plan, because Mariah May got in there straight away and she was like, please be friends, and that sort of worked. Because Mina not only shook Toni Storm's hand, but they did a big old hug and they did a big old kiss as Nigel McGuinness on commentary basically had a meltdown. This is quite funny. So I really like this, and I have to presume that Mariah May will win the Owen Hart Cup on the female side, and we do Toni versus Mariah at Wembley, and with the help of Mina Shirakawa, Mariah May probably becomes the AEW Women's Champion. So here's a thumbs up for this, for keeping the story going as long as it has been. Must be well over 6 months. Up. When we did another 180, like being on a roller coaster, because it was Orange Cassidy versus Sabre Jr. We don't really need to get into this one much either, because you already know, and sometimes knowing is the best thing. I'll use the analogy I always do. If I sit down for a rom-com, I don't want to see the two leads stab each other at the end. I want to see them get together, and here, I want to see some shenanigans from Orange, and I just want to see the best technical wrestling on the planet. And that's exactly what I've got. There's also another Orange in Orange's pocket, because he went toe-to-toe with Sabre Jr. here. And while Zack is clearly the best technical wrestler in the world, Orange looks so damn good. So there's still these pockets of the internet that go, man, Orange Cassidy, he's just a comedy wrestler. Well, one, comedy wrestler is actually very hard, I'll have you know. And two, he is way more than that. The guy's got shops. And juice. Zack really is something else too, which is another reason I'm kind of spinning through this. I can't describe some of these moves he puts on. It just turns into an octopus, and he does not only weird things with his own body, but weird things to other people's bodies, and I don't know how this isn't like quote-unquote real, because it just looks so uncomfortable. They're also catching each other out of midair at one point and doing slams, and Sabre did that at one point, and I swear he just broke Orange's arm, but then I calmed down because it's okay, pieces of fruit don't have limbs. That's how they got away with it. They soon went back for the submissions as well when they got bored of that and instead tried for a most devastating move in all of sports entertainment surprise roll-up battle. But the way they were doing it, once again, I was trying to figure this out like it was science, and science is hard. Orange also found this out the hard way too, because he went for the mousetrap when, I kid you not, Sabre Jr.'s brain must have gone, hey, why don't we apply 4 submissions at once? Which I swear he did do, and Cassidy had to verbally submit because he didn't have any other part of his body that he could use. And I actually thought this was quite a surprise win, but I needed one. It's not really AEW versus New Japan, but you don't just want it to be AEW wins, AEW wins, AEW wins. So I approve. Zack made sure to give Orange his sunglasses back after this, which was either 1, a nice sign of respect, or 2, the worst gift ever. And look, I totally understand this is not everybody's cup of tea. You'd rather coffee instead, but I just like the fact this kind of wrestling does exist and we can see it on a mainstream pay-per-view. I am most definitely giving it an up. I mean, try and watch it move for move and think how good you have to be to pull it off. Gets a round of applause from me. Samoa Joe, Hook and Shibata taking on the Learning Tree, and Jeff Cobb was after this. I'm just going to give you my main 2 thoughts. Because number 1, I need Joe versus Cobb instantly. Not only because you can abbreviate this to JVC, who used to be a sponsor on Arsenal shirts. That's a very niche reference, but this is the epitome of big men slapping man meat, and even what we did get here, holy crap, it rules. And number 2, I think this is the kind of match that could go on Dynamite. Now, I totally respect Tony Khan because he wants to give you a bang for your buck, which is important. You're putting down $50 here. But I also think you want something in the tank for when you get back to your television, and so many people in this match were stars. Probably would have been a good pull to get those ratings. I mean, to sum it up, you don't need to shoot your load just because you can. Shouldn't have said it. I do very much enjoy this new Chris Jericho character though, which I know is a controversial thing to say, but the hey guys thing is just getting to me. And also, this kicked off with Big Bill versus Shibata, which is another reason why I like the novelty of the Forbidden Door. Not in my wildest dreams that I think I'd ever see that. Big Bill did boot him right in the head, which scares me like Bryan Danielson when Jericho tagged in there, but this is when he went for something and missed because both Hook and Shibata did the Samoa Joe nope spot, and we saw Samoa. He was like a proud dad. It actually made me feel satisfied in my Tootsie Toes. This is when Joe and Cobb finally went at it and my face lit up like a Christmas tree, which was weird because I'm a human being, and this spine buster that Cobb did, he most definitely did not like Samoa Joe's back. I also love the fact that he's called Jeff, because it's like somebody you'd work with in accounts, but also who you'd look at and go, man, You see Jeff today? He can kill us all. He also did a moonsault because of course he did, and they were really focusing on Hook here, but that's when he took his hand and he dunked it in some warm water, which then transported its way over to Shibata. He was like, oh, my hand is ready to go. Hot tag. I think Hook must have taken a Phoenix down instantly because he went to the top rope and did a double axe handle, which I'm always fine with because 1980s move need to come back, when Chris Jericho got worried and said something to Bryan Keith, who was on the outside, and he started to distract the referee. They allowed Jericho to start hitting people right in the testicles and applying the walls of Jericho, but Shibata stopped that. But he walked right into the Tour of the Islands by Jeff Cobb, and again, we need Jeff Cobb on television. This dude is super duper good. Hook then snuck in there and he gave a T-bone suplex to Jeffrey, which was also good when Jericho was here, and he hit the code breaker, but he only got a 1-2. Ooh. Jericho foolishly then waved to the crowd, which counts as a pose, so he got hit with the red rum when Shibata was doing a submission move and Samoa Joe was doing a submission move. It was a bit like, man, my kids, they have grown up learning how to make people tap out. What? And Jericho was able to escape, but as soon as he did get back up, Hook just murked him again, ran at him, gave him the Judas effect, and he pinned him for the 1-2-3. I was like, you damn right. I did go a little bit super nerd because it reminded me of like a year or so ago when Action Andretti beat Chris Jericho. And now with hindsight, if we hadn't have done that and we had given it all to Hook, well, this may have been twice as good. I did really enjoy this though, because much like the first match, it just gave you a little bit of a breather because everybody just went all Cyndi Lauper on us and they wanted to have fun. Ain't no two ways about it. It gets a very solid up. I would definitely describe it as super entertaining. I may have just said that. Which brings us to our next match. Now, I don't know if I can call it super entertaining. I mean, it was, but it's also the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. It was time for the TNT title ladder match, which means it was Mark Perry versus Jack Briscoe versus Takeshita versus Dante Martin versus Lio Rush versus El Phantasmo. This was another bunch of guys that walked around backstage saying, so we're all gonna kill each other, right? And the answer was in the affirmative. So I've been thinking about it, and I think the best way to allow me to cover this for you is to just go through these spots one by one, and I promise you they all happen. Because ELP threw Rush through a ladder with a spinning fireman's carry. Takeshita broke Dante's neck with a brainbuster on the side of a ladder. Briscoe then laid Takeshita on a table and took him out with this crazy senton. ELP walked across a ladder bridge to squeeze Jack Perry's nipples, which was funny, but still saw him and Martin take horrible falls. Rush dove through a ladder to take out Takeshita. Mark went for another mad jump when he was meant to land on the table, but instead hit the side of the thing, and I actually had a meltdown because I thought he was dead, but apparently he's fine. Takeshita hit a power bomb on Lio Rush through another ladder. He also took ELP and hit the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the Blue Thunder Bomb, through a bunch of tables. And I've had people messaging me going, ha ha, Simon, it's not the least devastating move anymore, is it? And I respond saying, well, no, it is. Because did it win? No, it never does. There is a reason for this though, because Briscoe grabbed Takeshita and gave him a Dre Driller through another ladder as I started to just cry because I couldn't believe what they were doing. When Jack Perry was here, he was like, I have all the weapons and I'm going to hit all of you very hard. He was then able to climb the damn thing and become the TNT champion, which was the right result because now the Elite hold all the gold. But if you have 20 or so minutes today, just go and watch it. And in terms of ladder matches over the last few years, I think this may be right up there, because not only did it have major stakes, these guys wanted to win that belt, but it was also so dangerous. And that should be the idea of the ladder match, as long as everybody is okay. This was pretty damn fantastic, and it is ganging up. If it wasn't for the main event, it would probably get the golden up, but people have asked me to keep golden up to one a show, so I like to listen. When it was Mercedes Moné versus Stephanie Vaquer for both the NJPW Women's Strong title and the TBS title, and honestly, Stephanie's gonna have to go out there and get a massive truck, because that cash is coming. The first thing she did was headbutt Mercedes when we got to angry arm drags and pin attempts. Honestly, it took about 10 seconds for my brain to go, wow, they both really want to win. Moné then went for the bank statement, if we can call it that, but Vaquer had no interest, so they went to the outside. This is when she grabbed Mercedes and essentially threw her into the side of the ring, which is technically the ring apron, but also technically not, but I bet your ass it was still hard. She also hit a crossbody from the top because this thing was flying, and even when Mercedes went for the Three Amigos, on the last one, Vaquer was like, well no, I don't want this to happen to me, so I'm gonna get instant revenge. Because basically, she grabbed Moné's head with her legs and just smashed it into the ring canvas over again, and this is when we got the big old change. Because I think the New York fans went, oh wow, we like this Vaquer, also Mercedes from Boston, so they started to boo her and chant the Celtics suck, which is very niche, but I very much enjoyed it. Because I just love madness like this, it makes wrestling really fun. Mercedes didn't care. She hit the double knees, she hit the DDT, and she almost got a 3. And that rhymes, but it's also a 1-2-0. After a missed pile driver too, both women just clashed into each other when they did double kip-ups, which is always going to get a pop. Which then led to a strike battle when Mercedes was able to apply the face of the crosses. Once again, all the fans were like, boo, boo, and they weren't saying boo words. Moné didn't care though, so she hit all the backstabbers to the point we're going to have to be sold out, and poor Stephanie Vaquer's back is probably never going to work again. She also went for the frog of the splashes, but she totally missed. That's when we did a little bit of a tease. Because in revenge, Stephanie hit the most violent dragon screw you've ever seen, and you know it must have connected with the fans, because it was just a dragon screw, but every single one of this 11,000 crowd went, oh my gosh, that's disgusting. Moné was then in a panic though, so she was able to apply the submission again, but when that didn't work, she went for the Moné maker when they were flipping around the face, when Mercedes finally hit the Moné maker, and she transitioned right into the crossface. And by this point, Stephanie Vaquer was like, well, I have nowhere else to go. I may as well go home. She tapped out. She is going to do all right though, because she is a great wrestler, and this built to something super huge, because not only is Mercedes Moné now a double champion, but as we kind of celebrated a little bit too long, which was the point, Britt Baker's music hit, and the DMD is back. She got an absolutely huge response too, and I don't think we've seen her for over a year, and this probably means we are going right into Britt Baker versus Mercedes Moné, and you damn right. Let's not stand on ceremony here, Mr. Wayne. I'm gonna be dead one day, give me all the good stuff. This was a really good last 5 minutes. Let's get it up. When expectations did whip our ass a little bit. It happens. I haven't said this for a while, but I think it's the best way to sum it up. And sometimes you do just rate a match on a curve, because yeah, you do have certain expectations, and even if people do have a good match, if it doesn't feel like your expectations have been hit, you feel a bit disappointed. That didn't make any sense, but it's true. But it was Jon Moxley versus Naito for the IWGP Championship, and listen, it is a more than fine match, you'll have a good time, but given what I thought it was going to be, I don't know, sometimes you swing and you miss, and things don't click. That's kind of what happened here. I also just think it comes down to the fact that Naito has given so much to pro wrestling over the years, he is slowing down. Again, Father Time is going to kick all of our asses. Although saying that, he did walk up to Jon Moxley and went, and he spat in his face. I mean, you know, he gave him the hot toy. Jim Ross was also on commentary during this, which I thought was wonderful because he has been going through health woes recently, so I hope he is okay. And Moxley was so mad that he had been hot-toured, he started to throw a bunch of chairs in the ring when Red Shoes, who was the ref, was like, why do you do this to me? Now I've got to get rid of him. This is when Naito did it again, so he must really enjoy that meme. And this is when Moxley decided, right, I'm now going to break your bones. That's what he tried to do, he was going to snap him. He also hit a pile driver as he told Naito to slap him, which Naito did, and then Moxley was mad. So funny, it was like this. Simon, my dear boy, what do you want for your birthday? Well, I'd really love a wrestling belt. Here you go. How dare you, you piece of shit! Mox then raked Naito's back, which I'm always a big fan of, because again, bring back the 80s move, when they went to the outside and they smashed through Barry Barricade, and they were doing neck breakers. As always, they want to break people's necks. In revenge, Mox then tried to choke this guy out, but he hit a Destino, and when he went for another Destino, that didn't work, and he got paradigm shifted instead. At that point, everybody was down. Another thing that happened a lot on this pay-per-view. Mox then hit this huge lariat though and did get the paradigm shift for a very good 1-2-ooh. And given it didn't work, he just went back to the original plan. It's like, screw it, I'm getting a chair. Red Shoes then facepalmed because he already told him about this. And even though he was going to do that move into a chair, as the red one was getting rid of it, kind of Naito hit a modified Destino, and they got back up to their feet, hit a brainbuster when he hit a proper Destino, and he got the 1-2-3. And that does make him the brand new IWGP champion, but the finish was just a little bit strange, and I don't know why. Now, it does make sense, because with the G1 coming up, you want the champion involved, which is usually the way, and this was just all right. Like, it wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it puts me in a very interesting position. I'd like to give it like a finger in the middle, because like I say, I enjoyed the match, but there was something missing from it, so I'm going to do what I always do. I am going to wuss out. I'm giving it up, and I'm giving it a down. But sometimes, if that's the way my tush feels, what am I meant to do? Who are we yelling at here? Let's just move on. You can forget about all of that though, because we did get to the main event, and as I've already hinted at, good grief, this was incredible. But it was Swerve Strickland versus Will Ospreay for the AEW World title, and just take it from your bored friend, you need to go and see this. Ospreay also dedicated this match to his grandma, who had recently passed away, so thoughts with his friends and family. And as soon as the bell went ding, 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 it just went so fast, 100 miles an hour, and it was you hit me and I'll hit you, and I could barely keep up with the thing in a good way. So in about 2 minutes, I was totally invested. When they both realized they were at a stalemate too, they did the whole stare down thing. Everybody went crazy. 7.24 stars in the Tokyo Dome. We was then wrestling tennis for a little bit of while as we did go back and forth, and just as Swerve was about to get the upper hand, or he had the upper hand, Will went nope, and he hit the most absurd Hurricane Rana you've ever seen. He followed it up with a stun gun when Strickland came back with a big boot and a backbreaker. And I was like, what the flub is going to happen now? It was like this the entire time too, because Will missed the hidden blade and Swerve missed the house call. But man, when Ospreay went for the Oz cutter, Strickland cut him off in midair with this Swerve stomp. That was utterly ridiculous. You then saw Daniel Garcia watching from a crowd, and why wouldn't you want to be observing this, when they did a power driver onto Barry Barricade. And in terms of people assaulting Barry on these pay-per-views, this could have been the worst one. This all then led to some 1-2 oohs as Will hit not one Oz cutter but two. When it all went off again, moves were being blocked, and even though Swerve was going to snap Williams' arm, somehow Ospreay avoided it. There was then more Oz cutters and a Stormbreaker that Swerve Strickland kicked out of. And go and listen to the fan reaction to that, they couldn't believe it. We then saw MJF watching on as well as we started stealing maneuvers because Swerve Strickland hit the most brutal hidden blade you've ever seen. That pissed off William because he went to return fire and he hit the ref instead. Whoops. Almost instantly Don Callis ran down. He was trying to give a screwdriver to Ospreay, so bring down the crime count and add a one because you can't do that. This is when Prince Nara got involved and he pushed Don Callis down. Everybody cheered, but William must still be in love with Dom because he got him Prince Nara in the face. He was going to drive him with the screw when he realized, wait a minute, I'm a good guy, and he didn't. I should have mentioned too before all of this, Will Ospreay did actually have the match won, but again, that referee was down. But it just meant in the interim, Swerve was able to take his Phoenix down. And when Ospreay got back in the squared circle, he hit him with the most brutal house call I've ever seen. And I'm pretty sure I just said that, so within seconds he'd outdone himself. And if Will's head had fallen off, I would totally believe it. And when Swerve hit the Swerve stomp and only got a 1-2 ooh, honestly, it's one of the best near falls I've seen in ages. Especially because afterwards Will got to his feet, he was all woozy-goosey, and he went to hit the hidden blade, and he just fell into Strickland's arms. Don't you tell me again that AEW don't tell no stories. Ospreay was essentially toast here though, so it was time to butter him up. And after he'd been hit with another house call, Strickland hit this devastating big pressure, and that's right, he beat Will Ospreay for the 1-2-3, and even though there were some shenanigans, my word, it made Swerve come across like he was the greatest champion ever. This was bloody fantastic. It's the same with Will as well, who just isn't human when it comes to wrestling, and we made sure to see Carl Fletcher out there comforting the man, so that's going to head in a certain direction, but you've already figured it out. I've already told you, it doesn't just get up, it gets a golden up, because these two are some of the best wrestlers in the world, if not the two very best, and they came together here, and my word, they've got chemistry. They should go and take sides. So it really was something else, and while I'll be the first to admit that while the pay-per-view was very good, there were some moments that were a bit strange. Overall, it's getting an up, and if you do want to buy it, you're probably going to get your money's worth. Now, of course, the most important thing to do is drop me a comment below and let me know what you thought about the Forbidden Door. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen so you can check out my ups and downs for SmackDown as we support all of professional wrestling. Otherwise, I appreciate you, my friends. Take care, have a lovely week. See you soon.